Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. We'll call to order the July 7th, 2026 meeting of the Auburn Common Council. We'll begin with a moment of silent meditation and reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll proceed with roll call. Councilman Fincham.
Here.
Councilman Braun.
Here.
Councilman Webb.
Here.
Councilwoman DeWitt.
Here.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
Councilman Bundy.
Here.
Councilwoman Prosser.
Here.
Council, in front of you, you have the meeting minutes from the June 16th regular meeting.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any questions, discussions? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Recognition of visitors. We have a pretty extensive list, so please know if you've signed in today, you'll be entered into the official meeting minutes. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address the council? Please come forward and state your name. Oh, turn that on, please. Thank you.
Ted Hansen, live here in Auburn down on Madison Street. I really don't want to be here because I know nobody's going to agree with me, but I'd like to know why we're getting Mr. Foster giving him money. He's a child molester. Everybody in this building knows that. He's bringing people from out of state that we do not need. Did you not give him $10,000 here a month ago or so?
What organization, Ted? What organization?
Child Molesters of the World Inspiration Ministry.
No, we did not give any funds to
Was it the Board
Inspiration.
of Works?
We gave funds to the Hearten House, the Serenity House, and the Drug Addiction Treatment Court.
Oh, well, that's not what I got from. Oh,
Yeah, those are the only three organizations
well, I
that
hope you
funds
give
were.
him any money because he don't deserve anything from this town. Let him stay in Butler where they don't like him anymore anyway. But he is also, because I still have people going there and giving me information. He's planning on buying the county farm. It ought to be tore down before he gets it. And if anybody's interested in what he is, I got a full notebook right there that'll tell you everything about Mr. Foster.
Thanks, Ted.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council?
Can I give you some papers to put in the official record, or
Sure,
I don't know how that works?
Yeah. Chief.
It's just everything that I have gathered for this case on that lot on 1000 Auburn Drive.
Are these all individual?
What's that?
Are these stapled like a packet for each person?
Yeah, no, they're just for the official record. They can look at them, but
Would you want to
But I-
start with Councilwoman Prosser and bring them down this way?
so I just want to talk about that lot a little bit. that
Your
we're getting
name,
ready-
please.
Pardon?
Your name, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mary Jo Levy,
Okay.
702 DeKalb Avenue. So most of you guys know my name, but you haven't met me before. I've sent a lot of emails out because I'm really concerned about this lot getting rezoned at this time. I don't think it should be rezoned because our community, it's gonna take a hit on our neighborhood as far as the character and the aesthetics of it. It's going to take a hit. And I wanted to show you something that I put together here. Oh, now that I can't find it. And also that restrictive covenant that's on that property is for the entire property. It's not just for partial, or it would say it. it would say partial. It's for the entire property. So, and because we don't know where those chemicals have traveled in the years that they've been there, like this is the picture of them. This is in 2000. This is 7 years after they started the remediation. This is 2000, and it does come down into the grassy area, the plume of chemicals. We don't know from 2000 to now how far that may have traveled. Seriously. This is our neighborhood. These are all industrial, and then this is our little neighborhood. We're almost closed off as it is. You know what I'm saying? If you take this lot away from us, I just feel like our neighborhood's going to deteriorate, because I've seen it happen in a lot of different places. When they start building around it, people stop taking care of their homes. They start moving out. And I just think it's a great area, and we love it there. And this lot with the trees and everything keeps the factory kind of away from the neighborhood. And that is very important. I think that we keep that the way it's going. The groundwater, we don't know how far it's moved, and I don't know what testing they would do if they started developing. I don't know if IDEM would require certain testing. I couldn't get a hold of them. I've been trying, and they haven't answered me back. That's pretty much, I've said just about everything I needed to say in the emails that I've sent you guys, but I just wanted to let you know that it is very important to this neighborhood that we keep the lot the way it is, at least for now. You know, I mean, if we knew what was going to happen to the lot, but we don't. I mean, we know he's selling the property because I found his listing online. So if he sells it to the asphalt company and they build on that, they're gonna want to tear them trees down, possibly. That's going to disturb the soil, and that's even closer to where the chemicals are, and that's very concerning to me as well. And I'm not going to take up too much of your time because I've probably done that in the last few weeks. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council?
Hello, my name is Kenneth Dell Heights Jr. I've contacted all of you guys in emails. I'm against the rezoning of that area because I have a dog that I like to walk around the neighborhood. And if you rezone there, it takes away and there's more traffic and more noise, more lights. And she's a rescue. And she already has issues. And it would be even more devastating to her. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak to the council? Mr. Ryan Brenner?
There's always one in the crowd. Hi, I'm Dave Weinbrenner. I'm an Auburn City resident and a property owner partner at 1810 and 1812 Dallas Street. 43 immediate neighbors have signed the circulated petition to stop the rezoning ordinance. Now the public is appealing to the city council to make a common sense decision to reject the ordinance to rezone. Council members were voted into office to help preserve the betterment and the general welfare of the community, first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak to the council? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Clerk Treasurer?
Excuse me. Good evening. The current voucher is at $3,242,128.66.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the vouchers. Any questions or discussion, comments? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I also have the May bank reconciliation is complete and out on the website for your review. Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinances and resolutions.
Ordinance number 2026-12, an ordinance withdrawing the Auburn Municipal Electric Utility from the jurisdiction of the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Summary. This ordinance withdraws the Auburn Municipal Electric Utility from the state regulatory jurisdiction of the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission pursuant to Indiana Code 8-1.5-3-9.1. I move that we pass ordinance number 2026-12 on second and final reading.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass ordinance number 2026-12 on second reading. We're going to suspend the council meeting. We're going to reconvene the public meeting from the meeting on April 21st. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and speak in regards to ordinance 2026-12? Anyone that would like to come forward and speak in regards to ordinance 2026-12? Close the public meeting. We'll reconvene the council meeting. I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion by the council? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance number 2026-17, an ordinance amending sub-chapter 95.35 entitled Excavations of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. Summary. This ordinance amends and restates chapter 95.35 entitled Excavations of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. I move that we pass ordinance number 2026-17 on second and final reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass ordinance number 2026-17 on second final reading. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance number 2026-18, an ordinance to repeal Chapter 54 entitled General Utility Provisions. Summary. This ordinance repeals Chapter 54 of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances entitled General Utility Provisions in its entirety. I move that we pass ordinance number 2026-18 on second and final reading.
We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 2026-18 on second final reading. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance number 2026-19, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the City of Auburn, Indiana. Summary. An ordinance to reclass the zoning of a 40 plus or minus acre parcel of land located north of Morningstar Road, east of Main Street, from agricultural district and DeKalb County R2 to medium density single family residential district. I move that we pass ordinance number 2026-19 on first reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass ordinance number 2026-19 on first reading. Any questions or discussion? Jim, do you have anything that you'd like to present, or you? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ordinance number 2026-20, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the City of Auburn, Indiana. Summary. An ordinance to reclassify the zoning of lots 1 through 12 of Block 9 of Aubrey L. Coleman addition to the City of Auburn, Indiana, and the east half of the vacated right-of-way of Hazel Street adjacent to the lots from R3 High Density Single Family Residential District to I1 Light Industrial / High Tech District. I move that we pass ordinance number 2026-20 on first reading.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass ordinance number 2026-20 on first reading. Any questions or discussion by the council?
I have a question.
Jim, can you come up? Can you give us the background on this, please? And if you could address Ms. Levy's concern about the soil testings, the chemicals.
Certainly. So the 12 lots that are proposed for the rezoning, of course, are undeveloped. They've always been undeveloped. They've been platted lots since 1914. And obviously, just as the other lots around it to the east and to the north, they were platted as residential lots, clearly. That was the intent. That was before, the building of 1,000 Auburn Drive was there. When zoning came into the city, they were actually zoned industrial. That was the first zoning classification of the property. And it remained industrial until 1989. 1989 is when the residential zoning came into place. And it changed a little bit. It's mainly been single family zoning for those lots since then. What's important as far as the use of the property is what our 2040 plan says. The Auburn 2040 plan, which was done by the city, enacted by the city, clearly identifies the intended use of those lots as industrial. So that what the plan shows for future use of those lots, even though it's zoned residential, shows industrial is the appropriate use for the property. The property did have some issues, contamination, that IDEM stepped in and had some remediation done. The contamination was contained, limited to the northwest corner of the property. There was some movement of the contaminants between the northwest and the southwest corner of the property, but that's where the contamination was contained to. That was first identified in 1987, and all the way till 2010, the property was closely monitored by IDEM through remediation, through cleanup efforts, et cetera, which had some soil contamination removed, as well as some groundwater injections occurring to try to purify the groundwater and cleanse the groundwater. They've had monitoring, IDEM have had monitoring wells on the property. They monitored it all the way through, again, through 2010, very closely. And that was the time period when they made the determination that the contamination was at an acceptable level in their standards, meaning that it's not 100% clean. It probably never will be, but it never came to the point where the industry had to shut down, had to cease operations. What had occurred was the contamination they felt was contained and limited to such an extent that it was deemed safe for operations to continue. In 2011, IDEM, with agreement to the then current property owner, placed covenants upon the property, covenants that restricted the property in various ways. And from a land use standpoint, the restrictions are that the property, and it was correctly stated, my initial review of the covenants, I didn't think they applied to the 12 lots. I took the legal description that's in the document in the covenants, the legal description that's in the deed. I drew it out. It clearly does include the 12 lots. So the covenants restrict land use on the property. There can be no agricultural land use on the property, and there can be no residential use of the property. That includes the 12 lots. So IDEM, the covenants clearly state that no residential, which also includes schools and daycares, those type of facilities. So what we have done, what we have is we have a zoning on a property of residential that's a prohibited use. So that property owner has zero uses that they can do with that property. They can't do anything with that property. We have taken away through our current zoning any rights they have for that property. Our plan says it's industrial. And that is the most appropriate use. And as we look at a request for rezoning to industrial, the property owner does not have an intended use for the property. I don't know that he intends to build on the property, but he does intend to market the property as a whole. So all of his property would be under one zoning classification. I know for a fact that it being split zoning has created issues for him in the past for financing mechanisms, as it would probably for a lot of potential users of the whole complex. When you have a split zoning like that, it definitely created some issues from a financing standpoint. So he wants to avoid that and clean that up. The property should have some viable use. Again, right now it has a zero, other than vacant, other than a field that he can mow. That doesn't seem right. And so what he's asking to do is place industrial zoning to the same zoning that his current building is at, complies with the land use plan, and that the planning commission recommended. And what's important there, my opinion, is it was a unanimous decision. All the planning commission members felt the appropriate land use for that property is industrial. That's what the 2040 plan says. And that gives him the right, or a potential future buyer, the right to put industrial use on the property. Now, there are some limiting factors to that. He could not simply add on to the building because there's pretty significant utilities between where the building is at and where the trees and the lots are at. There's a major sanitary main, there's a major storm main. Without extensive relocation cost, you're not going to add on to the building. The city vacated Hazel Street, so we have that land area. But there is certainly buildable area on those lots for a smaller industrial facility, whether it's a warehouse or whether it's, sold to somebody else to put, small industrial warehouse buildings. There certainly is buildable land there. You still have to meet all the setbacks off the roadways. And then if it is zoned industrial, anything that goes upon that property does have to go to the planning commission through a public hearing process for approval of what would be built there, And that's not necessarily the use per se. The use is controlled by the zoning, but the location of the building, where the driveways would come out, do we restrict driveways onto Dallas and force them to use Auburn Drive? Those kind of decisions are made by the planning commission, what the building looks like, et cetera. But at least we have that safeguard as a community that whatever does get built by whoever has to come back through a process for review. That's the history. What I know of the property, again, I believe it's still being monitored. The land use covenants are still valid. In fact, the current owner who's asking for the rezoning, when he purchased the property, in the deed itself, it specifically outlines the covenants and the restrictions that are on the property. So he understood when he bought the property, he knew what the covenants are. And that is honoring what IDEM requirements are. If the property does get rezoned, one other stipulation of the covenants is IDEM needs to be notified of the zoning change. My take on that would be what they wouldn't want to see is the factory building being rezoned industrial. They would definitely want to know that. If the residential area that they've already prohibited use of for residential is rezoned to industrial, they're not going to protest that. They haven't protested the current use, but it is a notification requirement. And so but that goes on as long as IDEM desires it to go on. The only way that covenant can go away is if IDEM agrees it can go away. So, but that's what I know of the zoning and the history, and hopefully that answers some questions.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
The 2040 plan, does that not state that area was designed for employment center?
Yes. Thank you for the clarification. I say
And
industrial.
so I-1 qualifies as an employment center, but do other zoning classifications also qualify to meet that I-1 or that employment center?
I don't believe so. I don't take it as because the future land use map has commercial designations for land use. The only employment, there is no industrial designation, but I take employment center as industrial. By looking at the map, most of our current industrial areas are employment center land use. And so I think the connection there is that's what was intended as industrial.
Is there IDM, if they get if they're monitoring and everything, is there a possibility in the future that the covenants could be lifted and you go back to residential building in that?
I think there is a possibility. That's just the unknown, but they would have to agree to that. They being IDEM would have to agree to that.
And I would kind of disagree with your interpretation of employment center. If it's commercial and they employ people in a business there, I would say that that is an employment type center business. I would think that commercial or zoning would be an acceptable zoning.
When you look at the map itself, all I'm trying to state is that the land use map has different categories. This has residential, multifamily, or high density. It has commercial areas, then it has employment center. That's how I make the distinguish of what employment center. I don't disagree. Industries employ people, but I think from a land use standpoint, what the intent of employment center was industrial.
When all this happened in 2010, why wasn't this rezoned or visited at that point?
I mean, the city could have.
Like, why now? Why are they doing it now? Not
I think the owner is now, again, the current owner didn't own the property in 2010, 2011. He purchased the property later, my understanding. And at that time, it always has been an option for the owner to come in and ask for rezoning. I talked to him about rezoning it 4 years ago. But I think, now that he's looking to, my understanding is he's looking to sell the property. It become a bigger issue. He had the financing issue before I ever spoke with him, but he had some small business administration hurdles to overcome through the split zoning. They didn't want to loan money because there was residential use allowed, right next to it on the same property. So I think it just became a more important issue now to try to consolidate. He wants to take there's 21 different little pieces that he owns. He wants to consolidate it into one parcel for one sale and have the zoning match over all the parcels. So it was really, the city could have done it, when we learned of the restriction. But we didn't take that action. We have other properties that don't necessarily match the 2040 plan. So that's not an automatic that, we need to rezone everything to match the plan. Just as an owner wants to proceed further, we need to look to the plan to see what it says before we rezone property.
Jim, I just have one more question. So if they were to rezone it and they decide to build on it, they do have, like you said, they have to go back to the plan commission.
Yep.
So there is another review process for another opportunity for the residents to talk about how they want entrances of the facility and so on. Is correct?
That is correct. Where the loading docks might be, all those kind of site improvements have to be approved by the planning commission.
I was fortunate enough to talk to some of the residents, and one of the concerns was on Dallas Street. There's signs up that says no trucks, and trucks still go down it.
Mhm.
And so I think that needs to be enforced a little bit. Maybe the chief can help with that, But that's a big concern of theirs, is that trucks go down that Dallas Street, and I think that adds to some frustration and what could possibly happen next. But if there's a review process, then they'll have a chance to voice that at that time.
Very much. And, staff's certainly aware of those concerns. And I think we would look closely at where anybody would want to place drives onto that property if it's an industrial use. I think access is going to be critical to keep it off Auburn Drive, keep it, from Auburn Drive and not Dallas or DeKalb.
Jim, could you talk a little bit about screening for industrial zoned areas? Like what Plan Commission does in instances like those, what it could look like if there was screening up in that area, if someone were to build a small building there? What would that look like?
Absolutely. There are very specific screening requirements now when you have industrial immediately adjacent to residential zone property. There's different levels of screening. It's referred to as type A, which is the most intensive screening. You're not going to hide the entire building, but you definitely want to have, whether it's a berm, whether it's heavy shrubbery that's opaque, where you can't see through it, whether it's fencing, but something to limit both the lights from cars parking, the lights from trucks maybe entering and exiting, and just having that more of a natural separation between the building and the residential areas. It's important, and so the screening would be required along the north and the east property lines for that reason.
That screening requirement, is that something that could be granted a variance by the BZA?
Always, yeah. You can ask to waive or vary from any code requirement. So I can't guarantee that somebody wouldn't come along and ask. You have your required setbacks for the building, and the landscaping can be within that setback area. So there's not a lot of hardship as to why they couldn't do screening.
Jim, did you say in the covenants that they can't dig into the ground? Is that covered?
No, that's not part of the covenants. So the covenants talks about agricultural use is prohibited. Of course, residential use. There can be no drinking water wells. That's specific in the covenants. But it does not say there cannot be any excavation. That is not a prohibition.
Let's say when they decide to build whatever it is they decide, IDEM is going to be involved in that, I assume, and do all the testing again to make sure it's not.
IDEM would certainly be notified of that. So whatever gets built there, if it's industrial, has to go through state offices for permitting or for the construction of the building. But at that time, knowing the land use restrictions are in place, IDEM's going to at least be aware of what the ask is. Whether or not they say you shall do certain soil borings and testings, the city doesn't necessarily require that, but IDEM could. They would at least be notified of whatever is intended to be built there.
Okay, thank you.
From what I've seen on testing requirements, usually the finance company or the industry that's going in will require that because they're going to loan money and they want to not repossess something that's contaminated.
You are correct. We see that on most new commercial and industrial buildings. That's just another thing they have to go through, another step they have to go through to build the building.
So separate question.
Yeah.
So that currently is like 17 lots. There's 17 individual parcels. If an individual wanted to combine those into one larger parcel, what's that process? Are we vacating a primary plat? What's the process and who's involved if that step were to be taken?
It is unique. So we have the lots, the platted individual lots, then we have the vacated right of way being the alley, then we have the vacated Hazel Street. There are no easements separating those individual lots. So somebody, if they wanted to come in and just buy 3 of the lots, they could do that and they could build over those lot lines. Our code allows that because we're not crossing any easements. You still would have to meet setbacks from those specific lot lines. But somebody could come in and buy it and just build one building over all of the lots in the platted or the vacated right of ways and not have to replat it. That's not a requirement to replat, but it's required to meet setbacks from property lines and whatnot.
But they would still have then 17 individual tax bills. They all be individual parcels.
They would. You can, the county has the process to combine for tax purposes the parcels, but it doesn't replat it. It doesn't change the individual lot lines. It just makes for tax purposes, one tax bill instead of 16 or 17 different tax bills, which is what the owner has talked about, is trying to combine it for one tax bill.
But they would still show on county record as individual parcels.
They would, yeah.
You can get the lot lines eliminated. I've done that on 2 different properties and my son has 2, and you could get them all just one big property. You apply to the county, there's a form and they process that they can eliminate all those lot lines that everybody approves.
It does. What it does eliminate is the tax parcel lot lines. What it doesn't do is eliminate a platted subdivision lot line, but that's just a legality.
The one forms I fill out, it says you want to go back, you got to get it surveyed, and they're like gone.
Yeah. If you have a survey, which is a replat, you're
Right.
taking them separate lots and replatting into one big lot. That certainly can be done. Yes.
Any other questions for Jim?
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say thanks to the residents too, to came and expressed themselves.
I'd like to make a comment. No, I don't have a question, but I personally feel that this industrial zoning is, 2040 plan is a recommendation, but if the existing company was going to add on to the building, I would not see too much of a problem because they wouldn't probably add any parking lots. They would put grass on Auburn Drive and along Hazel Street, so there'd be a big setback there, and maybe a door off the back since there's already 5 doors off of Dallas. So the owner is not going to add on to the building. There is a possibility to commercial zoning or something. I think is still an employment center type situation, and in a situation like this where you're right next door to the residents, there's no buffer zoning in between the residents and this industrial. I think it would be more fair to the residents if the owners that I'm selling this property to so-and-so, XYZ, whatever, could, some kind of commercial entity, or it could be industrial, but they would see prints, blueprints, elevations, where the drive, a new business is going to be separate. So they're going to want to drive off Auburn Drive. And I just think that this process right today can't really support zoning this to industrial at this moment. It may be in the future where they have a set buyer and can move forward there. That would be more fair to the citizens of that neighborhood.
And I'll just kind of add to that just a little bit in the fact that, our UDO does allow for transition zoning. The intent is to separate industrial from residential with some kind of a transition zoning. And I kind of feel like the same way that a commercial zoning would be a much more appropriate than an industrial. I get it's never going to be houses, and that's unfortunate. And that's the direction that we're going in that particular area. But yeah, I do feel like there's better zoning choices than I-1.
Explain to me what's the difference between the commercial and industrial zoning. What's the difference of the concern? If there's still going to be a building on it, and there's still going to be cars coming in and out. So I guess I don't understand.
It's what's allowed in that structure that's built. So industrial can allow, manufacturing, things like that can take place, where a commercial zoning would just be retail establishments or storage spaces or something along those lines. It really is about use in that zoning.
From my discussions with the people, it was more about not wanting anything built there.
Correct. And I think we can
because
accept
of
the
his
fact
green
that
space,
can't happen.
That's the concern that
Right.
I understood. And if it's commercial, it's still going to have a building there. And whether it's industrial or not. And I feel like if the Plan Commission did extensive research on this and made their recommendations much more than what we've been able to tonight, although Jim made excellent, comments and answered all of our questions. I don't know how we can't grant that, in my opinion.
Oh, I'd like to add is just, at some point, we also have to take the property owner's rights into consideration as well. And I don't think we're doing that. That is there too. I should have a right to do with my property as I will, to some extent, correct? As it's zoned. So it's up to you whether you think that should go that way. To me, the industrial is just a block away. I've driven that. I drove the whole intersection. I plan on going into part of the plant next Monday just to take a look at the other operation that's in there. There's not that much noise. The smell from the concrete plant is not that great. It's a block away. It's right there. Buffer by what? It's already there. It's pre-existing if that does happen. You still need to consider property owners' rights at some point too. The Plan Commission was mentioned about property values going down. The industry is already there. I don't know how much more it can go down. And that's a fine line. Yes, maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. How much? Where's already the industry? We don't know. So I also think we need to consider property owners' rights as well. So thank you.
If I could just add one thing, kind of along the lines of what Jim said. You guys obviously have the right to vote how you want. What this could create is a situation where obviously the IDEM covenants say no residential can be built there. Certainly the business owner the property owner could come back to request a different classification, but if that classification doesn't make sense or doesn't work for his current zoning, the other things, we could be creating a situation where he's going to have no option but to, involve the courts to try to get, because we're kind of creating a situation where he can't do anything with his property. IDEM hasn't said this property can't be used for anything. It's limited the things that it can be used for, and it's limited what it is currently zoned for. So, that is, and obviously he bought it when it was like that. There's other arguments that can be made, but that's something to keep in mind is as it stands now, he can't use it unless it gets rezoned. And then for council to again, you don't have to take Plan Commission's recommendation. That's why it's a recommendation and not an order. But I think you get into kind of a slippery area when you tell the property owner, we'd consider rezoning this, but not to the classification you want, unless there's no other industrial anywhere around that, and that's what he wants for those parcels. Certainly, you have an argument there to say, no, we can't do that. But with industrial right next door, just something to keep in mind that can create problems down the road for us.
Any other discussion by the council? Hearing none, I'll call for question. All in favor,
Can
signify.
we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Okay. Councilwoman Prosser,
No.
Councilman Bundy,
No.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
Councilwoman DeWitt,
Yes.
Councilman Webb,
No.
Councilman Braun,
No.
Councilman Fincham.
Yes.
I have 3 yeses and 2 nays. I'm sorry. So with that, the ordinance is dead after first reading due to lack of votes.
Okay, ordinance number 2026-21, an ordinance amending Chapter 34 entitled Boards, Commissions, and Departments of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances. Summary. This ordinance amends and restates Chapter 34 entitled Boards, Commissions, and Departments of the City of Auburn Code of Ordinances to add Subchapter 34.200 entitled Utility Rate Advisory Board. I move that we pass ordinance number 2026-21 on first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 2026-21 on first reading. Any questions or discussion by the council?
I'd just like to comment, I think this is a good idea. We're moving forward into a new era and regulations and rates and stuff. So it's good to have a second opinion on things and get that input from the citizens involved with this. So I'm in favor of this.
Me too. I'm really happy that we're doing this, is considering we will have no other option if we have a problem going forward. So I like it.
Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to reports under the mayor, I would just like to thank the police department, fire department, street department, parks, the shifters, and all the organizations that came together to make the events on the 4th of July a success out there at Reiki Park. It was a hot day, but the car show went well from 4 to 8, and we had several thousand people, a lot of unfamiliar faces as you drove through the crowd. But I think overall, for our first year of doing it out there, we did not have really any hiccups, and just wanted to thank all those organizations for that. Council President,
No report.
Plan Commission.
So on the next week's Plan Commission agenda, we have two items underneath new business. The first is a rezoning that is at 608 South Main Street. It's being rezoned from traditional residential to an institutional district. The second item is the department's going to be requesting a public hearing to be held at the August 2026 meeting. Due to the state passing HEA 101, it kind of made a change to Indiana Code 36-7-4.3, which now states that prior to January 1st, 2027, plan commissions need to do a public hearing to review the UDO. And basically, it's to promote increasing housing development. So, Jim, do you think I've covered that pretty well, or is there anything else you need to add to that? Okay. So those two items will be the items on the agenda.
Thanks.
Yep.
Committees.
Nothing for ordinance and resolution.
Nothing for tax phase in.
Finance Committee meets tomorrow, 9 a.m. in here, and I think everybody got documents emailed yesterday or today. I don't know.
Do you have them?
Yeah, they were
Okay.
emailed. Yep.
I got them.
I got it.
All right, perfect. Is there any unfinished business to come before the council? Any new business? General good and welfare of the community?
Yes. Two things.
Go ahead.
Perry, comment on the fireworks. I'm in a neighborhood not too far from Reeky Park. And so I was a neighborhood participant, and I've talked to lots of other people that have sat in their yards and saw that, and it was great. It was just, we didn't have to fight the traffic, which is okay if you wanted to do that, but a lot of good comments about the show and the fact that we could see it. And they were, any empty parking lot or yard was full of people all over the whole neighborhood. So that was a great thing. Second thing was, I saw one of my constituents cornered me Thursday, and he was on the list of recipients of the Goodwill Day, the Work Day, United Work Day. Yeah. So he wanted to thank the police department that worked on his house and removed a bunch of overgrown shrubs and landscape work. And he's got stenosis and stuff, can't hardly do anything, and was just very appreciative for that whole situation and the police department doing all that work. He wanted me to pass that on.
Well, thanks for sharing. Any other things, anything else under the good? Next regular council meeting is Tuesday, July 21st at 6 p.m.
Move to adjourn.
Second. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
He beat me out.